Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Anyways, this video is about cycles, particularly vicious cycles. Now, this is a thing that's very close to my heart. These cycles affect the lives of people in general. It's especially close to my heart because people have to deal with these cycles each and every day. People would live much better lives, I beg your pardon, if it were not for these cycles. Okay. So this video is separated into 3 cycles. The first cycle I will address is the poverty cycle. The second and third cycle will be examples from the guilt cycle. Let's dive right into it. Firstly, the poverty cycle. The poverty cycle describes what seemingly is the endless continuation of poverty. Once a person or community falls below a certain level of resourcefulness, a chain of events starts to occur that tends to perpetuate the situation. Progressively lower levels of education and training lead to a lack of employment opportunities, leading to criminal activities such as drugs for survival. It also leads to a number of things such as addiction, shattered health, early death, breaking up of families, and even leading to a bleaker future generation, and so on. This cycle continues up until someone or some entity intervenes by providing worthwhile means for people to climb out of this destitution and by ensuring children's health and education. To encompass the poverty cycle, let's get into the nitty-gritties. It all starts with a low income. On a family level, poverty causes stresses such as insecurity in food, housing, income, and more. These stresses can also cause an increased risk of mental health problems and substance abuse in parents, which can lead to child abuse and neglect, and in turn cause negative mental health impacts for the child. Low-income communities tend to have specific characterizations such as limited resources, poor houses, high crime rates and violence rates, and an inadequate school system, which are all associated with poor mental health outcomes. At a personal level, poverty leads to physiologic responses to stress, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels. With prolonged exposure to poverty, these responses turn into disruptions in the brain functioning, which ultimately lead to both long-term physical and mental health consequences. With such parameters that come with low income, it makes it very difficult for one to save. In fact, it can make saving impossible and quite possibly lead one to debt. Without having capital from savings, it becomes very difficult or impossible to invest in worthwhile things that can help one earn revenue. This leads to low economic growth. A low rate of economic growth can cause higher unemployment. However, it is not always the case if there's negative economic growth. We would definitely expect unemployment to rise. This is because if there's less demand for goods, firms will produce less and so will need fewer workers. In a recession, some firms will go bankrupt, making many people redundant. Firms will be reluctant to hire workers when there is uncertainty and negative growth. Moreover, all this leads us back to low income. Poverty is the biggest enemy of education on every level. Poor students fall victim to health issues and lifestyles that hinder their ability to study and learn. Education can help in eradication of poverty. Those in poverty can only be of benefit from education. Right education can lift people from poverty and can improve their health issues, financial crisis, and it can change their life. It is the fact that poverty is both a cause and effect of lack of access to education. Poor health or nutrition deficiency, gender inequality, less productivity, lack of opportunity because people become ignorant. Hence, lifestyle is low. These are some of the problems faced by the poor, as their common characteristics include nutritional deficiency, low standards of living, large sizes of family due to lack of education or family planning, and unemployment. Human capital, therefore, refers to skills, knowledge, and experience possessed by an individual or population, viewed in terms of their value or cost to an organization or country. With low quality of education, such skills cannot be obtained. These are skills that can mostly be obtained through quality education. With a deficit in human capital, this directly leads to low productivity within a country, bringing us all the way back to low income. And so that cycle continues. That, ladies and gentlemen, basically encompasses the poverty cycle. Anyways, let's get on to the guilt cycle. The guilt cycle takes many forms and may not necessarily be as easy to break down as a poverty cycle. Therefore, I will make use of two types of guilt cycles that you are likely to generally find. Also, these are also very close to my heart. Let's get into it. Let's talk about sex, baby. This cycle is simple as it follows 3 steps. Anyone could describe it in further detail, but let's get into it. Sexual tension. We are human. Moreover, as such, we all have hormones that cause our blood to boil and crave sexy things, if you know what I mean. So, these natural hormones and bodily functions may lead one to sexual behavior. Sexual behavior includes, but is not limited to, sexual intercourse, masturbation, and lusting, and other things that I may be leaving out. Mind you, this is all natural. For some reason, and a reason which I will get into a little bit later into the video, this causes people to feel guilt. Guilt may cause people to refrain from sexual behavior. However, as we all know, this just causes a build-up in sexual tension. And so, with sexual tension, you go back to sexual behavior. And so the cycle repeats. This cycle, however, is only vicious because it causes guilt. Personally, for me, if the cycle only had to do with the sexual tension and sexual behavior, so going back and forth between sexual tension and sexual behavior, I think it would be perfectly fine. However, what causes guilt in most cases is basically, the short answer to that is religion. That is a vicious cycle on its own, which I will get to shortly. But religion in this context will refer to seeking counsel from pastors, going to priests, confession, prayer, and so on. This form of seeking religion causes relief. This causes temporary relief from guilt. One may be stuck in a cycle between religion and relief until sexual tensions build up, and so the cycle repeats. But I said earlier, religion is a vicious cycle in on its own. Let's dive straight into it. I'll break it down simply. I won't go into detail. I'll talk about religion in general and not be specific about any religion. But it goes like this. Think about it this way. When you're born into sin. You're taught from a young age, from as early as you're able to reason, that you are worthless and how you are full of sin. By the way, for those of you who don't know, textbook definition of sin is an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. Somewhere along the line, you'll get taught about the amazing grace that saved a wretch, that is you. A wretch, by the way, is a despicable or contemptible person. So, for you to stay in this grace, you have to live according to impossible standards. Like, for example, not to look at that girl and think she's hot, unless she's your wife. Well, that will cause you to fall from grace. And as is expected, by living by impossible standards, you fall from grace, diving headfirst into sin. Repentance and redemption becomes your only way for you to be saved by grace once again. And as an added bonus, the incentive for getting out of this cycle is a nice dose of eternal suffering. If this is not a vicious cycle, I don't know what is. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents, my thoughts. I'd like to hear yours. Please like and subscribe. Also share. If you think my content is good, share. Let people know. If you think it's horrible, if you don't like it, if you think what I'm talking is nonsense, share and tell people. Let them know of this guy who thinks he knows what he's talking about, but is just being silly. But anyways, once again, please like and subscribe, and thank you for the view.
Hey yo, Phxmz.
Yo.
You good, man?
I'm good.
Tell them where we came from.
Yo, man, we come from the bottom. Rock bottom.
Straight from the backward bottom. Straight from the backward bottom. I'm climbing this ladder, I'm switching lanes. Get to the bank, budget. Get to the bank.